You don't just live in your home, you live in your neighborhood as well. So when you're shopping for a home, you want to know as much about the area around it as possible. Luckily, Homes.com has got you covered. Each listing features a comprehensive neighborhood guide from local experts. Everything you'd ever want to know about a neighborhood, including the number of homes for sale, transportation, local amenities, cultural attractions, unique qualities, and even things like median lot size and a noise score. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trip Tales, the podcast where real people share their real trip stories to give you destination inspiration and practical planning tips. I am so pumped for this episode because we just returned from our Grand Canyon trip and I still have all the magical feels and I want to tell you everything about it. But first, I have to thank my two most recent buymeacoffee.com supporters. First, Jenna W. bought me a coffee and wrote, "Thanks for the great content. Really enjoying the podcast to help me plan upcoming trips and for inspiration to consider new destinations." And Darren H. bought me a coffee and wrote, "I really appreciate your podcasts. Love the insight into travel destinations." Thank you so much, Jenna and Darren. I do a happy dance every time a Buy Me a Coffee comes through, and it honestly gives me encouragement to keep going because it is kind of crazy to sit here, record these episodes, put it out into the universe, and wonder if anybody cares or is listening. And I know you guys are listening because I can see it in the statistics coming through, which is exciting, but putting real names and real faces and real comments to the listeners is extremely encouraging to me. For those of you who don't know, buymeacoffee.com is this super cool website that was created for podcasters and creators like me, for listeners to tangibly and simply show their support. You just go to buymeacoffee.com/Kelsey Graves and you can write me a little note, buy me a coffee, which literally does buy me my coffees and also helps me with, the grocery bill. I always have the link in my show notes, or if you have a good memory, it's just buymeacoffee.com/Kelsey Graves. Today is a solo episode because I will be simply sharing about our most recent family trip. It went so well that I want to share all the details with you guys. So if you ever wanted to replicate a similar trip, you can copy some of our itinerary or some of the places we stayed or the order we did things. But normally I have a guest on sharing about their real trip, why they booked it, where they went, when they went, where they stayed, what they did, and honestly, more importantly, what they would do differently next time, which can help all of us in our trip planning. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, simply email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com. And if you have some super cool upcoming summer trips, and you think maybe it'd be fun to share about it on the podcast, here is a simple tip. This is what I do now. In my notes app on my iPhone, on a trip, I just keep track of general notes from each day. So when I get back in bed at the end of the day, I'll just put Monday at the top of my notes app, and I'll just write a couple bullet points down from the day. And then the next evening when I'm settling into bed, I do Tuesday and just some simple bullet points. Nothing too crazy, not full on essays, but it's surprising how at the end of a trip and when you go to relive it on a podcast, a lot of things are in there that you might have forgotten about. So if you're thinking it could be fun to be on the podcast, just try that notes app hack on some of your summer travels. And if you have a fabulous time, email me and let me know. Even if we've already done the destination in the past, everybody has a different experience. Things change at resorts and destinations over time. So I am totally open to doing multiple episodes of the same location if you had a fabulous trip. And also a reminder that we do have a series called Trip Fails that goes right along with Trip Tales, where if for some reason your trip just didn't go as planned, a resort didn't live up to the expectations, or you just have a wild and crazy story of all the things that can go wrong with travel, also email me because Trip Fails are a lighthearted way to relive a trip gone wrong. So once again, that email address is just triptalespodcast@gmail.com. Okay, let's get into today's episode. First, let's talk about why we booked this trip. My kids are getting a little older, and finally, I feel like I can do some more adventurous trips. They can last longer on plane rides, on long car trips. My kids are currently 13, 9, almost 10, and 7. Now, we traveled all the time when they were little. It didn't stop us, but we did a lot of beach trips, Florida trips, visiting family, that sort of thing. And we absolutely loved it. You know, when kids are little, we all know it's not a vacation, it's a trip. It's the same amount of work, just in a different destination. So the easiest thing to do when kids are little is let them swim in a puddle jumper. Let them dig in the sand until they finally melt down because they're too tired and there is sand in their goldfish. We have lived so many of those days and those trips. Now that we have a teenager and our youngest is 7, and I'm starting to have those crazy feelings about, oh my gosh, I only have 5 more summers with my teen before she's off in college. Now, I don't love those scarcity memes and reels that come up that make you feel kind of guilty that you're not traveling enough. I really don't like that stuff. But now that she is getting older, I realize I only have 5 more summers where I can control her travel and expose her to cool stuff. I do believe we will travel with our family way into their upper teens, 20s, 30s. I still travel with my family all the time. And, you know, what 20 something is going to say no to a trip to Greece? So, you know, plan cool trips and they will continue to come. But I am starting to have a little bit of those feels like, oh, wow, for the longest time, they were just little and we were toting them along on these trips. And now I'm feeling that time starting to slip through my fingers. And I want to design and create cool trips that are completely within our budget, but that bring our family together, where we have lots of fun family memories, where they see cool stuff before they go off to college and they can say, yes, I saw the Grand Canyon. I went to this European country. I went on a cruise, although you guys know my cruise experience. But anyhow, I planned this trip because we finally felt like we could do a national park without one of our children trying to like run over the edge. I will preface this by saying being out there and being on some of these really cool viewpoints and cliffs, I still had anxiety in my heart with my 7-year-old, and I am not an anxious person. I do not have a ton of anxiety, but I would not do this trip with anyone under 7. 7 felt fine. 7 felt good to me. But less than that, I saw people chasing like 2 and 4-year-old little boys running around, you know, Horseshoe Bend and the Grand Canyon. And I was just like, not a chance. It is nerve-wracking. There aren't a ton of railings. So, you know, you've got to have those kids that are ready to hike, that have their wits about them. Another reason we planned this is because many of you know there is a 4th grade National Park Pass. This is a super cool program that the national parks have put together. It's so simple. All you have to do is Google 4th grade National Park Pass. It's just a website. You fill out a form and boom, a PDF comes up. You print it and now you can get into any national park in America for free. I have a feeling that the national parks made 4th grade the age because it is such a perfect age to start exposing kids to national parks. They're starting to learn about them in school. It's really a great time to bring your family to a national park when you have a 4th grader. It's also super fun for them because they get to like be a part of the trip. My son was so proud. You turn in the pass at the entry gate and they have to fill out their name on this little card. And then they get a physical plastic card that their name is signed on and that has a barcode on it and would get them and their family into any national park. Now, this is all of their 4th grade year through August, the end of August after their 4th grade year. So my son just finished 4th grade. So we just like snuck this in. So it's basically like 4th grade and the summer following. I wish we would have known about this earlier because we would have gone to more. And now I have it on my radar when my youngest is in fourth grade. It's kind of our plan to visit another national park to kind of use that pass again. Now, it's not saving you a ton of money, but getting into the Grand Canyon is $35 a day. And so that would have been $70 for us. And that was awesome that we didn't have to spend that money and that my son felt like it was kind of his contribution to the trip. So here in Nashville, Tennessee, we get out of school before Memorial Day. A lot of people think that's crazy. They're like, what? You get out of school so early. But the bonus is a lot of us leave for vacations right after we get out of school, and places aren't overrun yet. Now, yes, of course, the Grand Canyon's busy all the time, but it did not seem overrun. And I feel like that's because we got out there before a lot of the country is out of school. So we went in May, the last week of May in 2025. It was just our family of 5, my husband and I, and our 3 kids. And another exciting thing about this trip is it was one of the first times I fully utilized points for the trip. And I want to briefly break down how I did that. This isn't a Points and Miles podcast, but everyone who loves travel does love to get travel for free. So super, super high level on how I did that. If you have questions, you can always DM me on Instagram. I'm just my name, Kelsey_Graves on Instagram. I'm always happy to reply to DMs there. But you guys know I have been harping on getting the Chase Sapphire Preferred credit card if you love travel. If you haven't done it yet, I'll put the link in my show notes. I love for you to use my link because I get a little kickback, some points into my account if you apply through my link. But anyhow, basically Chase points that accrue in your account once you have this credit card can be transferred out to other travel partners. Now, you don't really want to book through the travel portal. I have done that before. There are times where it makes sense. And hey, any free travel is great travel. So if you'd like to browse the travel portal, fabulous. But where you get the most bang for your buck is transferring those points out of your Chase portal and over to your Hyatt, your World of Hyatt account. You just create an account over there, super easy, nothing crazy about that. And then you literally transfer the points you need from Chase to Hyatt.com and book on Hyatt.com. You can also transfer to other places like IHG, which is Holiday Inns and Kimptons. And I used that transfer for this trip as well. So brief breakdown. Here are the 3 hotels we stayed at that we used points for on this trip. First, we stayed at the Holiday Inn Express Grand Canyon. Like I said, this is an IHG. At the time I was going to book this on Chase, there was a transfer bonus. I can't remember if it was 20% or 25% more points when you transfer out. So I'm really bad at math, but if you transferred 1,000 points out, then you'd end up with, okay, I'm literally going to have to do this on my calculator. You guys are going to laugh. Okay, so calculator, I like one thing that doesn't compute in my brain is math. So let's say it was a 20% transfer bonus. Okay, so that's 200 extra points. So if I transferred 1,000 points out of my account, there was a 20% bonus. So I'd get 200 just free points, which would end up being 1,200 points over on IHG. I had to back into some math to do this, to figure this out, but here's the tricky thing with this hotel, and I need some of you Points and Miles people that listen to this podcast to DM me or email me what is going on here with IHG, because I was a little confused and I feel like maybe we made a mistake and spent too many points and too much money. When I went to book this hotel, it seemed expensive for a Holiday Inn Express. Now, I know it's by the Grand Canyon, but I put in it wouldn't register for 5 people, which a lot of families of 5 plus know that sometimes you can't even add 5 people to a room. So it would only let me do 2 adults and 2 kids. But regardless of the points, it was going to be really expensive, like $499, like $500 or something. And I'm like, what? So then I end up transferring points. We have enough points, and then we have to buy some points. We don't have enough. So I transfer some points over to IHG, and we also spend $194. So in total, we get this room for 29,000 points plus $194. I was like, okay, we've got IHG booked. When we're out there, my husband was like, I can't believe how expensive this hotel is. And so we look on our phones if we were going to like book a night the next night, and it's like $200 a night. And I'm like, that's what we paid to buy all these extra points. Like we spent 29,000 points and $194. And then we were able to stay in this hotel. Well, on the back of the door in our Holiday Inn Express, there was this flyer that said room occupancy rates. One person, $199. Two people, $299. Three people, $399 a night. Four people, $499 a night. And we were like, what? So many other hotels, it doesn't really matter how many people are. Now, in an all-inclusive, I get it. You're paying per person because you are also like paying that fee for food and drink and whatnot. But for a regular Holiday Inn Express, I was like, why is it more if we put more people on the reservation? So I kind of feel like I got duped. And if I would have just put two people on the reservation, we would have paid for it in points. I wouldn't have had to pay extra money. And we could have just snuck everybody in. I know that's like not honest, but I just feel like it's one room. We're not getting anything other than free breakfast. Does it really jump from $199 to a $499 rate if you have 4/5? We didn't even tell them about the fifth in there. Anyways, if anybody knows what is going on here, let me know, because I was a little like, whoopsie, maybe I messed up there. But regardless, that's how we booked that room. Moving on, we also stayed at the Hyatt Place Page, Lake Powell. This location is where you can see Horseshoe Bend and Antelope Canyon. Love a Hyatt. This was 15,000 points a night. So we stayed and had the most magical experience at Antelope Canyon for 30,000 points. 5 people were booked into the room. We had a sofa bed, completely slept comfortably for 2 nights for 30,000 points. And then we ended our trip at the lovely Grand Hyatt Scottsdale, which is like a beautiful, luxurious resort style hotel. Also was able to book the 2 adults and 3 kids into this room, no problem, on the website. This was only 21,000 points a night. So we spent 42,000 points to stay here and have an absolutely fabulous time. So just one more plug for that Chase card. If you open it and earn the points, you can stay at hotels like this, especially Hyatts, who have a great redemption rate.
Going up. Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up. Going up. But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button. Going down. We've lowered prices. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. And you get a free Samsung 5G phone when you bring your number. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available if at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
For free. Okay, let's move on to preparing for this trip. So one thing I've really liked to start doing is print itineraries for the kids. Now, I have my own itinerary that I create, which has reservation numbers, times of tours, phone numbers and email addresses and addresses of locations. I've even gotten to the point where I will like put how long it takes to get from point A to point B. If we like need to walk or drive, this takes 2 hours to get from here to here. It's just helpful in the moment when you're there to not have to wonder and stress and be looking stuff up on your phone. It's all right in front of me. I print it and I have it in like a little folder. I know it's like super nerdy, but I'm sure a lot of you do that as well. And after having done this podcast for a year now, I've met so many of you that do the same thing. And it almost gives me like permission to be a crazy travel planner. And I love it now. I used to be a little like, is this insane? And now I'm like, no, I think it's actually why our trips are going well, is because I'm like over prepared and over planned. I know not everybody agrees with that. Some people like to be a little bit more spontaneous, but I really like to have everything buttoned up. But anyways, I take my master itinerary and I go into Canva and I type in 5-day travel itinerary. I pick some template that I don't hate. And then sometimes I change the colors or add some graphics of where we're going. And then I just drop in like 2 things we're doing that day. Maybe it's like hike the Grand Canyon, dinner at Arizona Steakhouse, or road trip to Page, lots of car time. And that way, when they're packing, they kind of know what they're getting into each day. And that really has helped my older kids pack, because they're like, oh, on this car day, I want comfy cozy. And then on this hiking day, I need like athletic clothes. In addition to the itinerary, I created packing lists with the daily forecast. So this is just in Google Docs. I would just say, like, okay, for example, for us, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe. And I would say the city we're in that day, since we moved around a lot, the forecast for that day. So high of 101 in Arizona, low 30. Like while we were out there, it was still that like desert weather where it can drop really low. You wake up in the morning to have breakfast on the patio and it's like 40 degrees, but then it's like 100 by 2 p.m. And so I would put the forecast on each day and then just put like outfit, hiking clothes, hoodie. And then I did that for each day of the week for each family member. And then again, as they were packing, they were able to see what the forecast is going to be because they're at the age where they want to pack their own clothes. And it's just easier for me to send that up to their rooms and them to take their time and go through and put things into piles or into a suitcase. Another thing I'm trying to be better about before a trip is get a bunch of 5s or 1s for tipping, bellmen, tour guides, all the things. And so I went to the bank and I got $100 in $5 bills. This was great, super easy. It comes like all in perfect, new bills packaged up. So that was easy to bring in my wallet. And it was just so nice to have at the airport, at the hotels. At 42, I'm still like, haven't been good at that. And I always find myself on trips like, oh shoot, I don't have any cash. So that's like something I'm making a priority of doing before trips now. Our must-haves, travel sound machines, small travel sound machines, night lights. That's a new one for me. When we're sharing hotel rooms, it's so nice to be able to put a really dim lit night light into a bathroom so that if a kid needs to get up in the middle of the night, it's not pitch black. No one's turning on that bathroom light and just like lighting up the entire room. So night lights have been a plus for us. Always garbage bags, at least like 3 for dirty clothes, wet swimsuits. As you move throughout the trip, our shoes were disgusting by the end, like covered in dust, red sand, rock. And so by the end, those were all in a trash bag. And obviously be careful not to throw your trash bags away. I always kind of hide them or put them back in the suitcase so that like cleaners wouldn't accidentally throw them away. But trash bags. And then our handy dandy travel bed, which is on my Instagram. I will probably create a reel about it soon because it was so helpful for us, but I will put it in the show notes as well. This is a inflatable travel mat. It's not as thick or as substantial as an air mattress. You inflate it with your foot. You don't need a pump. So it comes really small. I put it in a suitcase. It's like smaller than the size of a shoebox. It would fit in a shoebox. And then when you get there, you unroll it. There's instructions. You pump your foot on the pillow area and it inflates. It doesn't take long at all, less than 5 minutes. And it fits a twin sheet. Now it's a little bit smaller than a twin, but it fits like a nice fitted twin camping sheet or whatever. And we also just stuffed a small Buc-ee's blanket into one of the suitcases. I knew all the hotels would have plenty of extra pillows and probably blankets too, but this saved us in 2 hotels. We had a kid sleep on the floor. And also I was worried about deflating it and getting it back into that packaging. You know how like puffer coats come in a really small pouch. And then when it's time to stuff a puffer coat back into that pouch, it's about impossible. That's what I was picturing. But this was easy peasy to deflate. You like open the little valve, kind of fold it over a few times and sit on it, put your knees on it, and it got down to that regular size again. So that was a huge plus for us. I've already had a few people tell me they already bought one. If you click on the link in the show notes, it's just called the single. I think there's like a double and a single. It's the single camping bed. Amazing. You can throw it in a car. You can throw it in a suitcase. It definitely helps sleep a kid. A small adult could even sleep on it. Like it's that good of a size. And it even comes with a pillow inflated on it. So if you were really roughing it, you'd have a pillow, but my son liked to actually have his own pillow on it as well. So anyways, camping bed for the win. Okay, let's get into the trip. Tuesday, alarms are set for 5:45 a.m. We have booked Southwest flights direct from Nashville to Phoenix. We decided to go in and out of Phoenix for this trip because we love Scottsdale. We love Phoenix. It's kind of bougie. We can be a little bougie. And I wanted to end our trip on a fun, relaxing, bougie note. There are other episodes of this podcast you can scroll back to where people have gone in and out of Vegas. So, choose your own adventure, choose your own path. We decided to go in and out of Phoenix. Bought round trips, flights. We had one companion pass, but I believe we paid cash for the rest of it. Nothing crazy, just like normal Southwest flights. One fun hack I've started to do is to mobile order our airport Starbucks as we are arriving to the airport. I knew it was going to be a 4-hour flight. I know Southwest isn't giving anything but maybe a pretzel. And so I wanted our kids to have something to eat, but at 5:45 at home, that's like too early. And so as we're driving, my husband was driving, I'm mobile ordering from my Starbucks app to the airport Starbucks. Now, I don't want to push it too early because I don't want them to like throw it away if we're not there for like 45 minutes. So I wait until we're like pulling up to the airport and ready to walk in. Then I press place order and it's like, thank you, it'll be ready in about 15 minutes. We go check our bags at the Southwest kiosk. We make our way through security. And as we walk up to the Starbucks, our stuff's all sitting right there. Now, I know it's not always going to go this perfectly, but in this case, it did. Everybody was pumped. They got their bacon and Gouda breakfast sandwiches. They got their, let's see, my daughter's order is, I like know everybody's order by heart now, strawberry acai lemonade refresher light ice. My daughter got her cake pop. We were all happy and were able to gather our things, go to the gate, have kind of a hearty breakfast that would keep us filled up through this 3.5, 4-hour flight. Okay, this next part is going to give some of you who travel with littles some travel inspo for the future. It's always kind of like musical chairs on where our family's going to sit. 'Cause we have 5 people, it's normally 3 in a row. Who's sitting with who? How are we doing this? A lot of times it has ended up my husband and my son will sit together and I'll sit with my 2 girls. I don't know why, that's just how it's been, but regardless, it's always musical chairs. As we're boarding the flight this time for Southwest, my older girl and boy are like, we want to sit together. And we were like, sweet. So my older 2 kids sat in front of us and my husband and I sat with my youngest in the back. Now, this might not seem like that big of a deal, but some of you with multiple kids are probably like, oh my gosh, like we didn't even lift a finger or say a word to those 2 older kids on this flight. They sat in front of us. They watched a movie together. I saw my oldest daughter share an AirPod with my son, and they watched a 2.5-hour movie together, the entire flight, or most of the flight. They ordered their drinks. They had their snacks. They shared their snacks. They were laughing. I was like, oh my gosh, we have arrived. And then of course, like my husband and I still both had to handle my youngest. She's like uncomfortable, trying to sleep. Her neck pillow's too big. She wants more snacks. I was like, how many people does it take to take care of a 0 through 7-year-old? But just letting you know that it does get easier and the kids like have their own devices and their own headsets and order their drinks and are really not any of your responsibility for the flight. So that was pretty fun. One teeny tiny hack that I know a ton of you have already seen before, but it worked for me this time and I've never really done it before, is have you ever seen how on Pinterest or on Instagram they'll say to use the motion sickness bag as a trash bag because they have a pull tab that pulls off like a sticky side if you needed to close it up. So you can pull that pull tab and stick it to your like tray table or the back of the seat in front of you. My daughter had like all this stuff. Like she had like wrappers and who knows what. She was like doing crafts and coloring and she was just like making this mess. So I peeled off that little sticker, stuck it to the back of the seat in front of me and started compiling all her trash there. Instead of trying to stuff it into like cups or the pocket in front of you, it was such a nice way to just like get our area clean. And then when the trash people came through, when the flight attendants came through with trash bags, I was able to just peel that off and plop it in. So super small hack, but I kind of really liked doing that. We got to the airport. We had rented a Turo minivan. That was awesome. It was there. We got that all situated. And gosh, I love a minivan on a trip like this. So much space, tons of luggage space, tons of space for everybody to spread out. That was a win-win. I had already mapped us, like in my itinerary, to a big and easy to access grocery store that was on our way up to the Grand Canyon. Our plan was to land in Phoenix and drive straight to the Grand Canyon. So that's like 4 hours north. But I knew we wanted to have like breakfasty items and snacks and that sort of thing that we didn't have to scrounge around for throughout the rest of the week. So my goal was to run into the grocery and grab things that wouldn't melt. I knew that our car would be parked in like a national park for the day and it's going to get up to like 100 degrees. So I was like, nothing with chocolate chips. We got like chip packs and Belvita bars, and they got Pop-Tarts for breakfast, which we don't normally do Pop-Tarts for breakfast, but on vacations, they like get really excited about it. And I'm like, fine, everyone pick a flavor. So we basically stocked up on snacks and breakfasty items. I also got a bag of apples and a bag of oranges because I figured they could get hot or cold. We can put them into fridges when we get to the hotel rooms. And that would just be like a nice way to have some fruit along the way. So got the groceries done, ate a quick lunch, and headed on our way. Another random thing I loved having on this trip was this phone holder, this phone mount for the car that clips into the air vents. It's super simple. It's like $12. I'll link this in the show notes as well. But I've been using it in my car because it works with a loopy case, which I'm like addicted to my loopy. And you kind of just like unscrew the back a little bit and make these prongs come out and then screw it back on, and it kind of clamps to one of your air vents. And then you just have this phone mount. And it was so nice to have in a rental car or a Turo because you could see your phone the whole time, mount it up, have it charging. Because, your phone doesn't always connect to like the interface or like maps on a rental car. So anyways, random, but we loved that. Now, I had asked ChatGPT where a good place to stop between Phoenix and the Grand Canyon was. I just kind of wanted to like make my way all the way up to the Grand Canyon and then work our way around for the rest of the trip. And ChatGPT recommended Bearizona. Bearizona is a place where you can drive through and see a bunch of different animals. You can also get out and stretch your legs, walk around. They have food, a gift shop, all that kind of stuff. I wasn't exactly sure what this would be like because sometimes some of those like safari parks can be a little depressing and sad, but this one was actually cool. I recommend stopping at it. We had a great time. It was about 2 hours from Phoenix, and then we were able to drive 2 more hours to the Grand Canyon. So it was a great halfway stopping point. You pay per person, which is kind of annoying. You don't pay per car. So it was a little expensive. Like, I can't remember how much, but I remember being like, it's annoying that it's not like $35 a car, but like $35 a person or something. But you start by going through their driving loop, which takes like 30 minutes. And we saw bears, mountain goats, wolves, like really cute mules. And they all looked like happy and healthy and like well taken care of. And I'm one of those people who like won't go to SeaWorld. I don't love zoos. And I was like, I feel like they like it here. Lots of space to run around. And we saw a lot of animals. The kids thought that was really cool. Like we saw quite a few black bears and even like a big grizzly bear. So definitely check out Bearizona if you have a chance on your drive up to the Grand Canyon.
Going up. Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up. Going up. But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button. Going down. We've lowered prices. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. And you get a free Samsung 5G phone when you bring your number. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available if at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
Okay, we got to the Holiday Inn Express Grand Canyon in a good amount of time. We still had time to go to our dinner reservation and catch sunset at the Grand Canyon, which was awesome. The Holiday Inn Express Grand Canyon is fine. It's older, it's clean, it's a place to sleep. They had a free breakfast. That's about it. There aren't a ton of great places to stay up by the Grand Canyon. So this is a place you can stay on points or just quickly. It is about 10 to 15 minutes outside of like actually getting to Grand Canyon parking. So we decided if we went back, we would want to stay in the park, maybe even close to the rim, but that's really hard to do with like a big family. So I recommend it. I also had heavily looked at I don't know how to say, Yavapai Lodge. That one is closer, but it's still not on the rim. So either one of those would be fine. But we did know that like we would need to get up and out so that we didn't get stuck in traffic or lines trying to get into the park. But anyways, it was fine. We liked it. It worked for us. We did blow up our bed and have that on the floor of the Holiday Inn Express. We we drove over to the Grand Canyon for the first time. It was no lines. Nobody was there. This was like 5 p.m. We walked up to it, and you guys, I was blown away. I was so amazed. I know everybody says it. It's so cliche. Everybody says you just don't know till you see it. But you guys, you don't know until you see it. I want you all to put this on your bucket list and like soon because it's an easy trip. I truly had a spiritual experience there. I cried twice, once on the first day, once on the second day. Not like, uncontrollable. I just got teary-eyed. I mean, I love mountains. I'm more of a mountain girl than a beach girl anyways. It is indescribable. So insane. I mean, the amount of times I've looked up, wait, how was the Grand Canyon formed? And then you're just given like the tectonic plates shifted and millions of years. And I'm like, no, this is otherworldly. This is spiritual. This is not just tectonic plates. So anyways, it was really fun my husband had seen it before, but I hadn't and my kids hadn't. So it was really fun to like have that moment with them. And we all just like our jaws were just dropped. And it just you can't really even say anything. You're just trying to take it in. So that was super fun. Just to walk up and see it was like, what is happening? Then we kind of walked around a little, got some pictures, had some fun. And then we had a reservation that night at the Arizona Steakhouse. There's a lot of fun restaurants around the rim. It's actually like a nicer and well kept up park than I pictured. Like everything's nicely paved, nice sidewalks, really nice big parking lots, tons of gift shops and informational places and restaurants and hotels. Not like commercialized, but definitely just like well kept. I was very impressed. I loved it so much there. I was extremely sad to leave. But we did make our dinner reservations well in advance. Arizona Steakhouse was lovely. It has views of the Grand Canyon. It is expensive. It's a steakhouse, but you can go in hiking clothes. They say on the website there's a dress code, but there really isn't. We weren't starving because we had eaten later in the day from driving around. And so we like all split some filet mignons, some baked potatoes, asparagus, and my husband tried the prickly pear margarita, which was really good. Everything up there's prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear. You get it in like the form, like any form you can think of, like prickly pear is what's at the Grand Canyon. And so, or in Arizona, I should say. And so that's kind of fun as well. So we had our dinner and then the sun was setting and the canyon just looks amazing when the sun is setting because all the colors are coming to life. Colors are changing. It's not just rock. There are trees growing out of the side of it. There is so much for your eye to try to take in. It's truly indescribable and just completely breathtaking. So we went a little bit down Bright Angel Trail, which is one of the more popular family trails. Just because no one was there. It was quiet. It was beautiful. People had like retreated for the day. All the tour buses had left. And we just hiked down a little bit for fun, for some pictures and to just like move our legs. And this beautiful mountain goat came trotting towards us. And he and I locked eyes, made eye contact. And I was just like, I see you. You live at the Grand Canyon. I'm in your space. I was like, just so amazed by him. They can like go over the edge and scale the sides of the mountains and the cliffs. I know they're called mountain goats and that's their whole point, but watching him just trot along this edge of this trail, right on the very edge past us, just like, hey buddy, it was so cool. The kids thought it was so cool. I think what I'm trying to say is if you can get up there for the first evening of sunset and just explore while it's quieter, that is my recommendation. Because you don't really need more than one full day at the Grand Canyon, I don't think. But if you just have one day, you're going to show up with everybody else in the morning, then it's going to get really hot, then the tour buses are going to roll in and it's going to be a little chaotic. So if you can get there the night before the sun sets and spend some time exploring how magical it is while the crowds aren't there, do that. We also did our souvenir shopping this night, just because there were low crowds. Everything was restocked. The stores were closing in like a couple hours and nobody was in them. So we browsed and my son he's really into like the figurines, like he got the Statue of Liberty figurine, and he likes kind of little collectibles he can put on his dresser. And he got like a mini 3D rendition of kind of the Grand Canyon and its shape. So he thought that was really cool. The girls and I got t-shirts. I was dying though. I love my t-shirt. It's like bright blue, really fun summer color, lots of fun neon colors on it. Grand Canyon, blah, blah, blah. Love it. Long sleeve, comfy to like wear if you're getting chilly or whatnot. So I'm wearing it on the airport ride home. And my daughter goes, I hiked rim to rim. And I was like, what? And she was like, the back of your shirt says Grand Canyon National Park. I hiked rim to rim. And I was like, it does? And so, yes, I bought a shirt that says I hiked rim to rim. I did not hike from one rim down into the canyon back up to the other rim, but I liked the shirt and clearly I didn't read it all, but I'm still going to wear it. And hey, I can just be a poser. So then we got back to the Holiday Inn Express. I had read some reviews and said that the one reason people didn't like it is because the walls are a little thin and there's so many people coming and going because you're at the Grand Canyon that the elevators and like people walking around above you are loud. So I emailed ahead of time and asked for a room on the top floor, which is just the third floor, away from an elevator. And they accommodated that, which was really great. We had our sound machines. We slept great in the Holiday Inn Express, and it was nice to be on the third floor away from elevators. So moving on to Wednesday, we woke up bright and early in the Holiday Inn Express due to the 2-hour time difference. I think I was up at 5 a.m., which is like 7 a.m. at our house. And so I just like got ready, was rearing to go, got everybody ready. They had a free breakfast, which was great, standard, but had eggs and that sort of thing. By the time we were all ready to go, we packed up our car because we were not going to be coming back to the Holiday Inn Express. We arrived to the Grand Canyon at 8:20 a.m. I was like, well, aren't we prompt? There had been signs around the hotel that said, if you wait till after 9 a.m., there might be lines getting into the Grand Canyon. We didn't experience any line. We drove right up and my son was able to flash his cool pass and we drove in and got parking. We started at the visitor center, which is big and beautiful, and we talked to a guide there, and they gave us the Junior Ranger packets. You guys probably already know, but these are just little workbooks that kids can work through in order to earn their Junior Ranger badge. The lady was super nice, and she said all they have to do is complete 4 of their favorite pages to earn their badge. And she's kind of like, it's a big book. Like, you're not going to spend the whole day working on this workbook. So she's like, just pick 4 pages you like, and it's like a scavenger hunt, and draw what you see. And then she leaned over to us and she goes, I know these days can get a little busy, so here are the badges. And so she just gave them to my husband so that we didn't have to like make our way back to her or to that visitor center later in the day, which was really nice. So I'm sure they always do that, but if they don't, you could ask like, hey, can we just have the badges and we'll award them to our kids later? So the kids actually had more fun with those than I thought they would. Even my 13-year-old was like answering some questions and sketching some stuff out. Then we walked over to Mather Point, which is a famous lookout point. You guys, again, unreal. This has railings around it, and kind of it's like a wavy railing that you can go to all different parts and lookout points. I was just standing, staring. My kids are sketching and looking at this insane view, and I seriously got teary-eyed behind my sunglasses. I was like, this is indescribable. My brain can't compute it. When we were hiking, every time I would look over, I would almost get dizzy, not because of that I was like scared or because it was so big, because my brain couldn't compute it all. It could not take it all in. And, you try to take pictures and whatnot, but I have like a Grand Canyon coffee table book on my Christmas list now. Like, I was so obsessed. So Mather Point was a great spot to just kind of take in the beauty of the canyon. And it's really big up there. You can take shuttle buses around to different areas. So the previous night we had parked by the Arizona Steakhouse and Bright Angel Trail. You can map yourself to like these restaurants and there's parking by all these different things. This day we parked in a different spot over by the main visitor center. So we needed to take a shuttle. It takes like 20 minutes on a shuttle to get back over to Bright Angel Trail, which we wanted to hike. You just find a shuttle, get on it. It's pretty easy. But like if we were to walk it, it would have taken 50 minutes to walk. And I was like, I don't think the kids are going to want to hike after we walk 50 minutes to this trailhead. So took the blue shuttle over to Bright Angel Trail. My recommendations for Bright Angel Trail. We loved it, but I would say start early because it gets hotter and hotter and more crowded and more crowded. It is dusty. It is slippery footing. You want some good sneakers on with tread. My daughter had like Nike Burrow court shoes on, my youngest, and those did not hold up super well. So you can hike in anything. It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to go all the way down, but it's going to be dusty and slippery. The views are insane. I realized that I gasped. I would gasp, oh my gosh, like at least 100 times. I caught myself like on time number 50, just looking over. You do these switchbacks and you turn the other way and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, insane, indescribable, stunning, all the words. My youngest and I turned around at about a mile marker. My husband had it like on his watch going how far we'd gone. So about a mile down, my daughter and I, my youngest and I turned around. She wanted to keep going, but I was like, honey, going back up is so much harder than going down. And it was just about 10 steps after having turned around. We were already huffing and puffing. It took us a while to get back up to the top. I made a game with her because it was hot and sunny. I said, every time you find some shade and a flat rock, we can take a break. So that would kind of get her around a couple switchbacks, and then she'd find some shade and a flat rock, sit down, have some water, have a couple chips, and then we'd keep going. But it's hard, you guys. Like, don't go too far down because 1 mile in and out is plenty for a kid. Now, my husband and my older two went to a famous turnaround point, which is a bathroom and a little watering hole. There's like a pump where you can fill up your water. That is more like 1.5 miles or so down. So they were more like 3 miles round trip. They did great. It was challenging. It was fun. They did great. So that's another good turnaround point as well on Bright Angel Trail. Right when you get back to the top of Bright Angel Trail or before you go on Bright Angel Trail, there are two really cool like cottage looking places that you have to go into. One is called the Kolb Studio, Kolb. This used to be like an art studio that they would take pictures from and draw from and paint from. The views are so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, if this was your studio space, I think you'd be the most inspired. So really cool to see that a family who originally moved out here had built that studio. And then another one is called the Lookout Studio. It's like a cobblestone gift shop. You have to go through this to the back terrace. They built out a terrace, like a patio. You guys, this is a terrace that is on the edge overlooking the Grand Canyon. It's the most insane terrace I've ever seen in my life. I can't even imagine back in the day, people like having coffee out there or having champagne on their terrace overlooking one of the most beautiful views in the entire world. So anyways, those two places are worth a stop in. And then we had reservations at El Tovar for lunch. This is another cool, fancy, schmancy, bougie spot. This is probably the nicest hotel at the Grand Canyon. They also have a cocktail lounge and a restaurant. This is like dark wood and has all the animal, what's the word when they're like stuffed? They were real, but they're taxidermy. They had tons of different types of animals, really cool and tasteful taxidermy around the top of the main lobby. The lunch is fancy and bougie, like think French onion soup. And they did have like a chicken salad croissant, and the kids were able to get kids meals. My oldest got a delicious lemon pasta that she thought was just like one of the best things she's ever eaten. Again, you have to make a reservation in advance. But, we kind of like a mixture of like the outdoorsy and the rugged and the Holiday Inn Express and the Pop-Tarts. And then, I kind of need a little bouginess in my life every once in a while. So El Tovar was super fun to eat lunch at. You can eat lunch or dinner there. Then we got in our car and we were about to head out to our next destination, but we did stop at the general store at the Grand Canyon before we left. You guys, this is great. I wish we would have known about it earlier, but it's like a huge, nice grocery store, full-blown grocery store, but also has like souvenirs. It kind of just has everything. So if you find yourself at the Grand Canyon and you're like, we need some groceries or we need a quick souvenir or a gift, hit up the general store. It is huge, and it even has like a little eatery with like sandwiches and pizzas. So the general store has a lot to offer in that area. Our next destination on this Wednesday was to get to Page, Arizona, but we were going to make some stops along the way. We mapped this out through ChatGPT, giving us the best route. We did go out of our way a little bit, but it was fine. We went to the Navajo Bridge. This is a really cool old bridge that you can walk across, and it gave me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies because it's just like anchored into each side of the rock, but like nothing below you, like no pole or anything going down into the water. You're looking over the Colorado River. Really cool to see. You can park and walk over it. A little nerve-wracking for me, but went to the Navajo Bridge. The drive in and of itself from Grand Canyon to Page, Arizona was so insane. Canyon views, like the Grand Canyon was on our left half the time. Red rock formation. It felt like another planet. It felt like Mars. Every time we turned a corner, I felt like we were in like a new video game where we'd like entered desert world, entered red rock world. It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen. We mapped ourselves to Cliff Dwellers, which is this area where old homes are still standing that people who used to live near and around these cliffs lived in. And also these wild rocks that are like balancing on top of each other in a super weird way that doesn't look natural. You can check out my Instagram stories for this, my highlight bubbles. It truly looked like Mars. Our kids were running free and wild. They were playing hide and seek in all these homes and behind these rocks. They were like little kids out in the wilderness. It was so fun. It's a little bit out of the way, but definitely worth stopping at Cliff Dwellers, which is kind of within the Vermillion Cliffs area. And then we got to our next hotel in Page, which was the Hyatt Place Page Lake Powell. I loved this hotel. A nice sized room. It had a sectional area, and that sectional also turned into a pull-out bed. 2 queen beds. This is a new-ish Hyatt Place. It's clean. It has an outdoor pool that overlooks the desert. We did ask for an upgrade, and they upgraded us to a desert view. We had booked the standard 2-queen room with sofa bed on the website, and it just overlooks the parking lot. And they did upgrade us to a desert view, which was great because every morning you got this like beautiful views of the desert as opposed to a parking lot. We had dinner at the hotel. They have a nice little restaurant called the Prickly Pear something. I can't remember. Everything's Prickly Pear. And they have a patio with Edison lights overlooking the desert as the sun sets. It was calm and beautiful. They have little blankets and a fire pit because it does get chillier as the sun sets. We had a lovely, simple dinner right there on the patio at that Hyatt Place in Page. There's not much in Page. It's kind of like a bunch of hotels, like Hyatt Places and Super 8s and Courtyard by Marriott, because everybody's just trying to stay there to go see Horseshoe Bend and Antelope Canyon and maybe Lake Powell. Lake Powell is one of the only big bodies of water in Arizona. So, and it's really cool. It's kind of like in the rock. So it's super clear blue water. So you kind of are looking out over Page and it's all this desert and then this crystal blue water. It's really cool to see. We didn't go out on Lake Powell, but if you were like a boat family, it's a really cool place to rent a boat and go out on Lake Powell.
Going up. Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up. Going up. But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button. Going down. We've lowered prices. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. And you get a free Samsung 5G phone when you bring your number. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
So we got a great sleep at the Hyatt Place, woke up Thursday morning, had breakfast at the Hyatt Place. It was a little inefficient and a bit of a disaster. Hyatt Place has tried to make their breakfasts look super trendy, like a kitchen. So all the plates, instead of like all the plates at the beginning of the buffet line, they're like scattered throughout, almost like you're in a kitchen with open shelving, like at the back of the place. So people are all like, you just watched every person go, where are the plates? Where are the plates? Where are the bowls? Well, they're not looking up like they're in a kitchen. They're looking at the front of the line. There's no plates there. They're running out of silverware. It was just a little bit of a disaster. So we decided to not eat at the free breakfast the second morning, but the first morning was fine. We got what we needed, but there were like no forks forever. So like we were eating waffles with spoons. Like that's kind of the vibe we got. One other thing to note is there is time change craziness in this area of the country because anything that's still owned by the Navajo, that's technically in Navajo Nation, they don't abide by the same time as Arizona. So our iPhones were constantly changing. Our saving grace was like knowing that the car time was the correct time. At one point, me, my husband, and my daughter's phone all had different times on them. We were like, would have to show up to a place and be like, what time is it? But we first went straight to Horseshoe Bend. This was really cool. This is kind of a park, do a short hike, maybe a half a mile hike on just a flat dirt road over to Horseshoe Bend. It's kind of a see it, take a picture, take it in and leave type spot. You don't need a reservation or anything like that. You do have to pay to get in, but it's not too much. This was cool. It's cool to see. On a previous podcast, someone had mentioned that the colors were incredible, like blues and greens and amazing colors. We didn't get that. We got like a dingy green color. I'm sure it matters on the time of day and where the sun's at and that sort of thing. Still super cool to see the water shaped in a horseshoe around, a canyon bend. There were areas here that did not have railings. There were people taking pictures out on rocks that were jutting out. I was like, that's a cool picture, but if you just had one slip of the foot, you're in the horseshoe, in the bend. My husband said, it's just kind of survival of the fittest and natural selection. He goes, you slip into that bend, the world keeps turning, babies are still being born, and you are now one with Horseshoe Bend. And I was like, I guess that's true. Luckily and thankfully, we did not see anybody fall, but I did not let my kids get out over those rocks. We just took our pictures and then headed on our way. Okay, we had a little bit of a bust at first at Antelope Canyon. What happened here is I didn't read my email clearly enough, seeing that we had to, it told us to show up 30 minutes ahead of our scheduled tour time. They would call your names 10 minutes in advance of your tour time, and your tour would be ready to go 5 minutes before tour time. So our tour time was 10 a.m. I thought this was a great time in the morning before it's too hot. We got there at 9:50, parked, probably got up to the window to say, hey, we're here at 9:54. She was like, you're too late. Your tour's left. And I was like, what? Thank God they had a slot later in the day at 12:30. I was worried it was going to be too hot, but it wasn't because you're like underground. We booked Lower Antelope Canyon tour. There's upper and lower. But if you book a tour through Lower Antelope Canyon, you need to read the email and be there in advance. I was so bummed, so frustrated. My husband was like, let it go. It's fine. And so Upper Antelope Canyon is easier, flatter. Look it up, but I'm not sure you actually need like a reservation time. I think you can kind of show up and go through as you wish. Lower Antelope Canyon is a little bit more adventurous. You like hike up some ladders and steps to get up and down where you're going. You're kind of squeezing through spots. We loved it. I highly, 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 highly recommend Lower Antelope Canyon. You have to book through a Navajo run company. I did my research. We booked through Ken's Tours, Ken, Ken's Antelope Canyon Tours. It was fabulous, amazing, other than the time hiccup. So we left for a little bit, got some lunch, went and looked at the Glen Canyon Dam. It was fine. I wouldn't say you have to go do that. Went and saw Lake Powell from a scenic viewpoint and then went back to our Antelope Canyon tour. You also can't bring anything into Antelope Canyon, which is pretty crazy. You can't bring a backpack. You can't bring a belt bag. The only thing you can bring into Antelope Canyon is a water bottle and a phone or a small camera. Not a big camera, not a GoPro. You can't video anything. It's pretty wild. It's a sacred historic site and they don't want people to video. I don't really understand the video part of it, probably because they want people to come see it in person, maybe. I don't know. But they don't want backpacks and stuff because you're like sliding through these canyon walls and they don't want you to disturb the canyon. They don't want you to scratch it and to wear it down with thousands of tourists and backpacks and GoPro sticks and all that. So you can only bring in a water bottle and a phone. And I would recommend having pockets this day, like bike shorts with pockets or sport shorts with pockets and zippers, because you're also using ladders and it's kind of hard to climb up and down these ladders when you have like a water bottle and a phone in your hand. Okay, so we finally show up to Antelope Canyon at 30 minutes before our tour time. We wait around, they call out our name, and we get joined with a Navajo guide. Her name was Michaela. She was amazing, and she took about 14 of us through Lower Antelope Canyon. Now, when you are descending into this canyon, you would never know it's there. At the end, when you pop up out of it, it just looks like a little crack, a little crevice in the earth. You would never know what's under there. I'm assuming most of you listening have already seen pictures of it, but if you haven't, just stop and Google images of Antelope Canyon so that you kind of know what I'm talking about. But basically, on this Lower Antelope Canyon tour, you descend down a ladder. It's not too hard. If you can climb up a regular ladder at a playground, you can do this. My 7-year-old did it just fine, and there were plenty of older people on our trip as well. But you descend down this ladder, and then you start navigating your way through this orange canyon with the wildest, smoothest walls that are curvy and crazy looking. And around every corner and every bend is a new moment that literally makes people gasp, takes their breath away. People can't stop taking pictures. They keep reminding you not to video, but it is absolutely otherworldly again. I know I've used that word a lot on this podcast, but they said that it's been millions of years of water rushing through there and wind blowing through there that have made this canyon so wavy and smooth. Apparently, if it rains, it can actually flood very easily. So they cancel tours if it rains because it's pretty dangerous, but they get so little rain that they hardly ever have to cancel the tours. One thing to note is that all of the guides are very well trained in taking photos. So at the beginning, I took 1,000,000 photos. By the end, they're offering to take photos for you in the best spots, and their photos are so much better than yours because they know how to change your camera settings, lower the lighting, kind of the angle. They even did some cool panoramics that were up and down to get the entire canyon and our family at the bottom. All my kids said after we left that it was their favorite part of the trip. The tour is only about 50 minutes long, so it's not like going to take up your entire day, but it is worth driving out to Page, Arizona for Antelope Canyon. We will remember this forever. The pictures are wild. You're so close to it. I mean, you're not so close to it, but at so many different places in Arizona, Utah, that type of trip, you can get to Page. Add it to your trip. Book a tour through one of the Navajo tour groups or Ken's, because we had a great experience with Ken's other than showing up a little too late for our first tour. One other note, I know you said you could bring a water bottle in. You can't even bring a Camelback in, which is so crazy because they're so small and it's basically a water bottle on your back, but they're very strict about this stuff. My recommendation would be to bring a plastic small water bottle in your pocket. You can buy those at the location. They have vending machines and you could, have some from the grocery or whatever. But we had our big awalas and it was kind of hard to do the ladders with that metal awala hooked to your thumb. So if I went back, I would just bring a small disposable plastic water bottle and stuff it in a pocket. So just to wrap that up, there are no words. Go look at my photos. Antelope Canyon was so cool. Highlight of the trip for sure. It again just blows my mind and makes me so appreciate nature and all that this planet has to offer us. And these are right here in our country. That afternoon, we just wanted a fresh salad or sandwich. And let me tell you, we found the best place to get food in Page, Arizona. It is called the Lake Powell Italian Deli. It was so cute and so good. Like I already said, there's not much going on in Page. It's kind of like a small town that just has a bunch of hotels for Lake Powell, Horseshoe Bend, and Antelope Canyon. But the Lake Powell Italian Deli knows what they are doing. They have delicious fresh ingredients, delicious sandwiches. We got something for all 5 of us and brought it back to our hotel lobby because there are a bunch of tables and chairs there. We devoured every single bite. The balsamic vinegars that they put on sandwiches, even the PBJ and the grilled cheese, everything was top notch. I know I'm being dramatic, but this was a very good restaurant to grab a lunch at and bring it somewhere back to your hotel or a beautiful spot to eat it outside. Then we just had some much needed pool time. It's a small pool that's up on a deck at the Hyatt Place Lake Powell, but it is clean. There are lounge chairs. We went out to the pool, snagged 5 lounge chairs, which was pretty awesome. Got the goggles out, got the mini football out, and just chilled in the Arizona sun for a couple hours. Also, bonus, right inside the lobby, the Prickly Pear restaurant and bar is open all day. So we were able to order some drinks from the bar. My husband and I think I got a Prosecco. The bubbles tasted so good after all this hiking and just sitting in a pool chair. Again, it's not a 5-star resort, but a plastic glass of Prosecco and a pool and a desert view, I can do. So we read, we tanned, we swam. It was just a great way to cool off and enjoy our final evening in Page, Arizona. That night, we headed out to the Grand Canyon Brewery. I also recommend this place. It is huge. It is a massive warehouse-style brewery with tons of tables, tons of TVs, a full bar, those huge fans going on the ceiling. Great menu. We all found something we loved here. They got us right in. Just another restaurant recommendation in Page, Arizona, the Grand Canyon Brewery. Okay, so Friday we woke up and we did not want to mess with the Hyatt Place Page's breakfast again because it was just so chaotic the first day that I was like, you know what, we're just going to drive through McDonald's. We hardly ever get a McDonald's breakfast. And my husband was like, let's go in so the kids can like order the hotcakes and sit down. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. We don't need to be in a rush. I forgot how much I love an Egg McMuffin and a hash brown and a black coffee from McDonald's. It tasted amazing. So random, but we had a great McDonald's breakfast. And then we were making our way back down to Phoenix. So to recap, we flew straight into Phoenix. We went straight up to the Grand Canyon via a stop at Bearizona, spent a night at the Grand Canyon, then drove 2 hours to Page, spent 2 nights in Page. And then now we are driving down back to Phoenix. On your way to Phoenix, you drive through Flagstaff, Arizona, which is a super cute small town, adorable, artsy town. Reminded me a little bit of Asheville, North Carolina. I have a cousin who lives in Flagstaff and works at an art gallery. She's so cool. So she was actually working at her art gallery and the art gallery that she and other artists have a co-op at. So we were able to stop in downtown Flagstaff, see her art gallery, actually buy a piece of her art. She had these super cute little cactuses that I bought a piece of art at. And then downtown Flagstaff is just so cute. We ate at a restaurant called Urban Pines. It was delicious. There was a sweet shop that was like double delicious. It had fresh gelato, fresh fudge, macarons. I don't know how to say those cookies. A candy counter with every candy you could ever imagine. Caramel apples. It was a kid's dream. So after we visited with my cousin, had a little lunch and hit up the sweet shop, we were ready to get back on our way. So Flagstaff or Sedona are both 2 great towns to stop into on your drive back down to Phoenix. We decided to not do Sedona this time because we just wanted to get to our resort style hotel. My husband's been to Sedona. I know we would love it, but we only had so much time on this trip and the kids were ready to like chill at a nice hotel. So we pulled up to the Grand Hyatt Scottsdale. There are so many lovely resort-style hotels in Scottsdale. You guys know. Unfortunately, when you're playing the points game, you do kind of feel handcuffed to Hyatts, which is fine. It's great. It makes it a whole lot easier to buy smoothies by the pool for your kids when your hotel room was $0. But I wasn't sure what to expect about the Grand Hyatt Scottsdale. It used to be called the Hyatt Regency at Gainey Ranch, and it's been remodeled and rebranded as the Grand Hyatt Scottsdale. We pulled up and I was so impressed. Beautiful architecture, beautiful cactuses and landscaping lining the drive, pulling up. Right when we went in to check in, they offered my husband and I complimentary Mai Tai welcome drinks. We were like, yes, please. Thank you. The kids were already getting into the cucumber and lemon water in the hotel lobby. It was so fun to progressively increase our hotels from the Holiday Inn Express to the Hyatt Place, which was a little nicer, to the Grand Hyatt, which was even nicer. I highly recommend planning a trip where your hotels get nicer throughout the trip. Our room was fabulous. We got upgraded to a pool and mountain view, which had the biggest patio I've ever seen at a hotel. I emailed ahead of time and asked to be upgraded. And when we checked in, they said we were automatically upgraded through the Hyatt system. So unclear if my email helped or not, if we were going to get upgraded anyways. I'm not sure, but regardless, the room was fabulous and nice. It had a big corridor, like a big hallway that you walked into and then turned left and had more of a big hallway. The bathroom was kind of there. And then we only had a 2-queen room, but with that huge hallway, we were able to put our camping bed again. So we might be at the luxury style resort, but we're still slumming it with our camping bed. But we walked out onto the balcony. It was massive, like a full blown patio, table, 4 chairs, some ottomans if you wanted to like pull your chair over and have your coffee in the morning. Overlooked the golf course, the mountains, and the pool. It was phenomenal. Again, you can look at pictures and videos on my Instagram story highlight bubble to see this. And then we just hit up the pool. We were like, we are ready to chill. It was about 4:30 or 4 p.m. I had read that a lot of the poolside service closed at 5 and the water slide closed at 5, but the pool's open till 11. So we ran down to the family pool. We were super impressed. The pools almost look like a Tetris game. I want to say there's like 6 pools that are just like one's in the shape of an L, and then one is fit right in that in the shape of a rectangle, and then another L going the other direction. So there's a lot of little pools, and then there's one bigger pool that has the water slide going into it, a beachy area, like an actual sand beach that kids can play in. And the sand goes into the 0 entry pool. And then there's a little filter that kind of catches it all so it doesn't go into the bigger main pool. But kids were loving that beach area. And then there's like a platform out in the middle with water shooting up out of it that you can kind of climb up on ladders and jump off of. So lots of fun for kids. We set up shop and we knew that the slide was closing and the poolside service was closing. So the server came by and she said, "Hi, I'm so sorry, it's last call," which my husband and I the entire trip thought it was really weird that they were ending poolside service at 5 on the dot because the pool was still slammed. It's Arizona. The sun stays out till 9 p.m. It's 100 degrees. I was like, they would make thousands of dollars in people ordering dinner, like poolside quesadillas, chicken fingers, smoothies, drinks. So that was kind of interesting, but I'm sure they have a reason for it. So anyhow, my husband and I ordered a quick drink after 4 hours of driving, and the kids hit up the water slide to test it out before that closed. And then we just chilled at the pool and had a great time enjoying the pool until we wanted to head up to the room. The kids were ready to just veg. You know how sometimes on a trip like this, go, the kids just need to veg out in the room, and I am okay with that. So we decided to DoorDash Cane's chicken fingers for them. They were like, "Cane's, yes." We just DoorDashed a 3-piece chicken finger box for each of them from Cane's. And then my husband and I went on a little date night down in one of the restaurants at the hotel. They had a sushi restaurant called Tiki Taka. It was kind of fun. I washed my hair. I put on a cuter outfit. My kids were happy as clams eating their Cane's on our patio and then watching their iPads and just chilling out for a minute. But the sushi spot was lovely, delicious sushi. My husband, they even brought out like a little complimentary shot of sake, which was kind of fun. And I'm not like a sake lover by any means, but it was crisp and cold and light, and it was actually really good. So we had a nice little date night down at the sushi spot. And then we all had a great sleep in this Grand Hyatt. The beds were so comfortable. The sheets were so comfortable. Now, I don't know if this is because I'm coming from a Holiday Inn Express and a Hyatt place, if I'm like, oh my gosh, the bed is luxurious, but it was extremely comfortable. Sorry to my son who had to sleep in the camping bed, but he had no complaints. He kind of likes having his own space, but really fun, like I said, to go to a progressively nicer hotel and sleep in a very comfortable bed. The next day, the last full day of our trip, Saturday, we planned on it just being a pool day. We just wanted to chill by the pool. We opted to not do the breakfast buffet. We didn't have any sort of credit to get it for free. It was $35 a person. I just thought, no, we don't need $35 breakfast right now. They do have a lovely marketplace that has little cereal cups and a breakfast sandwich, a breakfast burrito, chocolate croissants. So we hit up the marketplace and everybody just got a little something, which was perfect. And then we headed out to the pool. Oh, we did utilize the tip that my guest Christy shared about on the St. John episode. She had said how every morning, now that her kids are a little older on vacation, it's their job to go save the pool chairs and hunt for the best chairs. And we utilized this tip. It was about 8 a.m. I saw that some people were starting to save chairs, and I was like, all right, guys, here are your 5 items. We had like a pool float, a book that I was done with that I didn't care about, like a spray bottle. We had like 5 pool items goggles. I said, y'all go down and pick 5 pool chairs, like unroll the towels, lay them out, put these things on 5 chairs. So they did that. And we had the best pool chairs of the day, I believe, like right in pure sunshine with umbrellas, and we could see the water slide. We could see the beach. We could see the ledge. So props to the kids for that. One thing I really loved about this hotel is right when service was about to start at around 10 a.m. or 11, they walk around and put a huge pitcher of ice water and a stack of plastic cups on every single table at the pool. So we had 5 chairs. So we had 2 tables in between our 5 chairs. We got 2 pitchers of ice water and 8 plastic cups. They put them everywhere. I was like, that is so smart. You don't have to order water. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to go hunt it down. It just felt like a nice little touch. They also, since it's summertime, they had some fun activities going by the pool. They had crafts by the pool. My daughters each decorated a drawstring backpack that had 6 emoji faces on it, and they had paint markers out. They probably spent 45 minutes working meticulously on these backpacks. At the same time, my husband and son went to go play complimentary pickleball. You just have to call the concierge and reserve your time. They went over, played pickleball for an hour for free. So while they were playing pickleball and my girls were doing crafts by the pool, I read my book for 1 hour by the pool, completely uninterrupted. It was divine. Later, they had water slide races. Aside from my cousin in Flagstaff, I also have more family in Phoenix. So I have an aunt and an uncle that lives in Phoenix, a cousin and their 3 kids. And so we were able to meet up with family for lunch, which felt super special because living in Tennessee, we're pretty far from Phoenix, Arizona. So we don't get to see them that often. So it felt like a super special family catch-up session that we got to have at lunch. And then for the rest of the afternoon, it was just pool. We ordered sushi to go and pizza for dinner poolside, which was really awesome. They had a DJ to close down the pool. That was so funny. The kids were all dancing on the platform, doing the Macarena, doing the cha-cha slide. My husband and I were ordering some poolside drinks. It was exactly what we needed. A resort day, not a care in the world, reading our books. I went down the water slide. My kids were like, Mom won't go down the water slide. She doesn't want to get her hair wet. And I was like, challenge accepted. And so I started running over there before they could even see what I was doing. And they were like, oh, what? And so they followed me and I went down that water slide, folks. There's a video. I'll find it somewhere and post it at some point. But we had a ball. It was lovely. Grand Hyatt Scottsdale, highly recommend. No complaints at all. And then Sunday was just a travel day. Wake up, get situated, pack up our suitcases with all our trash bags of our dirty hiking clothes and dirty shoes, and getting organized, driving our Turo back to the Phoenix airport and heading home. Again, our direct flight home was easy peasy, and everybody was super happy with this 5-night trip. It wasn't over the top. We weren't gone for 2 weeks. It wasn't too rushed. 5 nights was perfect for these 3 stops. I was so grateful to have fit in a more adventurous trip with my big kids and see some amazing wonders in America, including the Grand Canyon and Antelope Canyon, and then having a typical vacation vibe the last 2 days. So I will end this podcast like I end every podcast. If someone out there is considering this trip, what is it about the Grand Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, Antelope Canyon, and the Grand Hyatt in Scottsdale that would make you say, just book it? You guys, I really don't think this trip could go wrong. Just book it. If you or your kids have not seen the Grand Canyon yet, it is one of the 7 wonders of the world right now, including places from all over the planet. And we have it right here in America. It is, well, I know there are people listening that aren't from America, so sorry I keep saying that, but since I live in America, it seems easy-ish to get to. Fly into Vegas or Phoenix, drive up to the Grand Canyon, book a room at the Holiday Inn Express or any of the other hotels around there. It will blow your mind. It is so gorgeous. I'm not joking. I am looking at art pieces now that try to capture the Grand Canyon. I want to hold on to it a little bit longer because it was so magical and meaningful for me. Also, if you're already out on an adventure like this, you've got to get to Page, book a hotel. Hyatt Place is great on points. Book the lower Antelope Canyon tour. Your minds will be blown. My mind was just as blown as it was by the Grand Canyon, but in a completely different way, because Grand Canyon is massive and extravagant and hard to comprehend. And Antelope Canyon is narrow and wild looking and some of the craziest shapes and colors. So just a different experience, but just as mind-bending and as amazing. And then finish off your trip with a little luxury, with a little bougie resort-style hotel days. Chill by a pool, go down a water slide, order a drink poolside, put your feet up, and just enjoy the sunshine and the relaxation. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any specific questions about the trip or the itinerary or specifically what we booked, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Kelsey_Graves. I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales, and make sure that you follow the show or subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss upcoming episodes. Some of our upcoming episodes include Hawaii, Ireland. My kids are going to join the pod and share their perspective on their favorite trips. We have the Disney Treasure cruise ship, one of the newest Disney cruise ships, Belize, Cabo. The trips are coming in and we have so much to share. So tune in each week for a real trip story from a real person, and I will see you on the next episode of Trip Tales. That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.